In this video, I want to go through reciprocal functions. So let's say I have the function of y equals to f of x here, and I want to find y equals to 1 over f of x. So that means is that, let's say I have the coordinate xy, right? And my y is my f of x. So my new coordinate will be x 1 over y. So now let's look at our minimum point, 1, negative 4. So my new coordinate will be 1, negative 1 over 4. All right, and my 0, negative 3 will be 0, negative 1 over 3. Now let's look at our intercepts, right? Negative 1, 0. So 1 over 0, that's going to be an undefined number. So we're going to have a vertical asymptote. And let's label it. So it's the same case for 3, 0. We're going to have a vertical asymptote, x equals to 3. So now let's look at the leftmost part of our graph, right? So 1 over a really big number, right? Let's say 1 over 10,000. That's going to give us a really small number. And vice versa. 1 over a really small number is going to give us a really big number. So what that means is that our graph will start here, right? 1 over really small. So we'll go all the way up. And as y approaches infinity, as it gets bigger and bigger, 1 over f of x will get smaller and smaller, and it will approach 0. So our graph will start here. So what that means is that my graph will look something like this. And there's a reason I drew it like this, right? At this point, my coordinate will be x 1, right? The reason is, let's say our f of x is 1. Our 1 over f of x, the y coordinate is still 1. So the true graphs will intersect at 1. So now let's look here, right? 1 over a really small negative number will give me a really big negative number. So I'll start here. And then we already have the dots here, right? So we can just connect the coordinates. Right, and we can copy it on the other side because we have a quadratic, and the quadratic is symmetrical. So now, right, we look at this part. It's the same as our first part, right? 1 over a really small number will get a really big number. And 1 over a really big number will get a really small number. So this part will approach 0, but it will never touch the axis. So it becomes an asymptote. And the true graphs will intersect at y equals to 1. All right, so let's look at another example. So again, let's transform our coordinates. My 0, negative 3 will become 0, negative 1 over 3. And then my true 0, right, 1 over 0, so it becomes an asymptote. X equals to true. All right, so now let's look at this asymptote, y equals to negative 4. So what happens is that on 1 over f of x, my new asymptote will be negative 1 over 4. So you look here, on f of x, it will go towards negative 4. So my 1 over f of x will go towards negative 1 over 4. In this part, as f of x go towards 0, my 1 over f of x will go towards infinity. So this part, my true graphs will intersect at y equals to 1, negative 1. So the reason is, let's say I have 1 over negative 0.1, right? My new number will be bigger than 0.1. But let's say I have 1 over 1.1. Then my new number will be smaller than negative 1.1. So if we look here, my negative 3 will become smaller. But once my f of x becomes smaller than negative 1, it will flip over and it will become bigger. So this part, my f of x goes from 0 to infinity. So my 1 over f of x will go from infinity to 0. So again, my graph will be curved because at this point, they will intersect at 1. All right, so let's look at our final example. So again, let's transform our coordinates first. So 0, negative 5 will get 0, negative 1 over 5. Then my 4, negative 4 will get 4, negative 1 over 4. And then my 11, negative 2 will get 11, negative 1 over 2. So now, let's look at our asymptote, right? Y equals to negative 2. It's a horizontal asymptote, right? So 1 over f of x changes our y value. So my horizontal asymptote will also change in value. So my y equals to negative 2 will become y equals to half. And then my vertical asymptotes will become intercepts. So I'm going to explain that in a bit. So let's look at the leftmost part of our graph. So we're approaching y equals to 2, right? This is our asymptote. So my new point will approach y equals to half. And in this part, my f of x will approach infinity, right? So what that means is that 1 over infinity will approach 0. So that means my graph will start at 0. So my graph will look like this. And now 1 over a really big number will become, well, 1 over infinity will get 0. So again, we'll start here. And then we already have the points here, right? As f of x comes to negative 5, my 1 over f of x will approach negative 1 over 5. And it'll meet negative 1 over 4 too. Well, let me refine this part a little bit. This should be a straight line. In this part, right, as we can see, f of x goes bigger and bigger and bigger to infinity. So again, it'll approach 0. So my graph will look like this. In this part, 1 over a really big positive number. So now we'll be at the positive side. So I'll start at 0 again. And then it approaches 0, right? So that means 1 over 0 is undefined. So now we have vertical asymptotes. Same for 13. So we get x equals to 9 and x equals to 13. So as it approaches 0, right, 1 over 0, 1 over a really small number will get a big number. So we'll start at the highest we can go, and we'll come down all the way to meet this point. And this part, right, this is my 11. This part, it starts at 0. So 1 over a really small number will get a really big number. So we'll start here. And then it'll approach this coordinate, right? And on f of x, it goes back to 0. So 1 over a really small number, we get a big, really, really big number. So we go back. So my graph will look like this. All right, this part. 1 over a really small positive number, we get a really, really big positive number too. And then, again, this graph approaches y equals to 2. So we know that it will approach y equals to half. So my graph will look like this. Right, it should be in the asymptote. And again, pay attention to your intercepts. It should be around y equals to 1. Should be around y equals to 1. Yep, and that's our answer.